Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel where we learn Power Platform one step at a time. So today we'll be looking into dangers of using add columns wrongly. I know sounds scary, but at the same time interesting as well. So what we'll be looking into, what is the actual danger while using add columns for denormalizing of data and displaying it in your Canvas application, and how you can resolve that problem and actually denormalize it properly using the best practice with the recent Microsoft updates. So let's get started. All right, so we are in our favorite portal, make.powerapps.com. So now just to give us a kickstart, what we have done is that I've created this add columns demo solution because, as I mentioned earlier, it is a best practice that first you create a solution and then you add all these different components inside your solution, right? So we will be looking into a practical production level scenario today and how you would have used add columns to display a denormalized view of these tables, right? So what I've done so far is nothing but I created 5 tables like child's parent, grandparent, grandparent, and then like grandparent. Mouthful, that's why I used an abbreviation of triple G parent, right? So this is like a proper normalized database which you would have encountered, or you will if you haven't. And especially when you're working with Dataverse and SQL as your backend, you will definitely encounter such scenario with SharePoint, because SharePoint is not a proper relational database. It's highly unlikely that you will see a scenario like with 4 levels of normalization. But since we are looking at Dataverse, that's why we have 5 tables starting from child ending at triple G parent. So that's the hierarchy structure. And if I show you in terms of columns and records, we only have one record and one column just to link that hierarchy. So under child table, you will find parent ID, and under child's parent table, you will find one more ID, which is grandparent ID. Then grandparent, you will find grandparent ID. You get the gist, right? So that's what the structure looks like, right? So now imagine you have to display the records which are stored in this normalized manner in your gallery in denormalized manner, right? So what you need to do, you need to display uh, in this particular scenario, what you will be displaying is this name, which is child's demo record 1, and then child's parent, you will be displaying child parent record 1, and then grandparent record 1, and like that, right? So let's head to our Power App Studio UI, and we will see how we can actually display this data, right? So let me add a gallery quickly, and let me add a blank vertical gallery. Right, perfect. So this gallery would be linked with our children table because Dataverse adds en. That's why instead of child now, it's using children as a name. Anyways, so you can see I have this child record demo 1, right? Now, what we need to display is basically your grandparent record, first parent record, then grandparent record, then double G parent, and then triple G parent, right? Grandparent, grandparent. Mouthful, man. All right. So, anyways, so now what we have generally seen, or if you're doing this kind of implementation, a general practice I've seen in many applications is that what you do is you try to add columns, right? Now in children table, what you will do is you will add parent ID, right? And your value would be, right, your value of this would be parent ID dot GUID, or yeah, your child's parent, right? So that's the name of our application, right? So then what you do is you have added the column, right? Now you can see expected an identifier. Okay, yeah, so it doesn't need this. Yeah, perfect. So you can see now, you can see parent ID, which I have added here with the underscore. Well, it's my bad habit. I'm used to giving double quotes under the column name of add columns because that was the old UI or the old syntax of add columns. But now it's a new one, right? So parent ID, now you can see my parent ID is there, right? So parent ID, now I can use this parent ID and actually do a lookup. Okay, so what's the next step, or what I've seen the next step looks like is this one. So you take add columns as your first input for another add columns, which is add columns this, right? And your column name would be grandparent ID. And what you will be doing is looking up your grandparents table, and now actually you will be looking at parents table. Yeah, you'll be looking at child's parent table, and your grid, you will be comparing grid against your parent ID which you have created, right? Now your lookup or outcome, your lookup outcome would be your grandparent ID dot grandparent ID, right? So that will be your lookup outcome, and that's how you will add what, your grandparent ID, right? So if we quickly see, there is an error. Incoming table and grid. Okay, so this is not actually the grid. So grid of this table should be this then. Yeah, perfect. You can see now it's working. Right, so you can see now grandparent ID, that's the lookup, and your final outcome looks something like this: grandparent ID and parent ID. So now if you're using this, what is the problem? The problem, you see, there is no delegation warning here, right? There is no delegation warning, and that's one of the drawback of add columns and using it in this manner to denormalize your data to display that in the gallery. Now, what I want to quickly see is why grandparent ID is returning a record type, probably because of this. So what we will do is grandparent ID dot grandparent. Yeah, all right. So now, actually, I was using the wrong dot notation. But anyways, it's the same thing. Even if you do third parameter of lookup, or you do after closing the lookup and dot notation, it's practically the same thing. So now you can see I have my parent and the grandparent. And similarly, I can add grandparent and grandparent as well. And that will be another two add columns. But now you understand what scenario I'm talking about. So now add columns, you can see there is no delegation warning, right? And I learned it the hard way that even though you don't have any delegation warning here, add columns is not delegable, neither with SharePoint nor with Dataverse. Now you'd say I'm crazy, but no. Now the problem will arise when you are using add columns in this manner and your children table exceeds 500 records if you haven't changed your delegation limit, and maximum 2000 records. The moment your children table has over 2000 records, your add columns will not work on the records above 2000, right? So that's the delegation, right? It won't add your parent ID above 2000. Even though there is no delegation warning, you won't be able to see the records above 2000. And if for whatever reason you are seeing that you are using this in your one of your projects, it will happen at a very long time in future if your application is not that big, it will take time to have 500 or 2000 records in your tables. But the moment you do, it is gonna fail, and you will not be able to see the records going above 2000. So that's why it is not a good practice, and you should exercise caution how you are using add columns. Now, the danger here is that you don't have any delegation warning, right? So you won't be able to know what is the actual problem. You will think that add columns is delegable, but it's not, even though there is no delegation warning. Now, this is the problem here, right? No delegation warning, still add columns are not delegable. So what is the solution for this, right? Now, if I was recording this video probably, I think 6 months ago, then I would have said that, okay, use formula columns, or you try to utilize views and everything, right? But now, I think it was around 3 to 4 months ago, or around 6 months ago, Microsoft released a very good update. Now, earlier, what used to happen, you were not able to use dot notation for denormalization after second level of normalization, especially with Dataverse, right? Because in SharePoint, you can't use dot notation to access all the columns of your parent record, parent table, or parent list. But in Dataverse, you can actually use the dot notation and use all the columns which comes from your parent table. Now, 6 months ago, Microsoft released a very good update which changed this understanding completely. Now you see this, or probably two more add columns to display a proper normalized view in your gallery, which will be something like this. So now you see I have this, and to display my grand grandparent record, what I would be doing is I would be looking up my parent table, child's parent table, and I'll be giving this, and then parent ID, which would be this item dot parent ID, and I'll be returning the name. And you can see child parent record 1, and this is my child demo record 1, right? So this is how you would have done, or if you're doing it, that's if you're using add columns to denormalize, that's what how you have done. Now, as I mentioned, 6 months ago there was a very beautiful update, and I was the happiest man alive probably after I read that release note update. Now, what is the update? So you can see I have my gallery too. I'll make it visible, and you can see this is what I'm talking about, right? So if you have to display the same this one, which is your gallery. I'll quickly add a nice little color in the background. Ooh, not like this. Yeah, better. Green. Right, so if you have to display a similar view in your top gallery, which is this one, I'll add a darker shade or a red one, right? A red one in this gallery. You would have to have like four add columns, and then three different lookups to get to this view, right? But now the update I was talking about is this. I've connected this to the children table, and then I'll show you this. So this item dot parent id dot name, and then this will be this item dot parent id dot grandparent id dot name, right? So I was able to go from children table to parent, then to grandparent using the dot notation itself, nothing else, and then fetch the name. And then the third level of normalization is this item is your children table, parent table, grandparent, this one, from grandparent to grandparent table, and then the name, and you can see grandparent 145. And then finally, well, this is like fourth level of normalization, from children to parent to grandparent, grandparent, and then triple G, and that means grandparent, and then the name. And you can see triple G parent record 34. See, and the items property is the cleanest possible, and then I was able to display all of my normalized records very easily, very nicely, right? Now, most of us don't know about this update, and we still tend to use add columns, which is not delegable, and there won't be any warning, and that's the problem. Then what's the alternate? How to resolve this? That's how you can resolve this, right? Do the items property as children, and do um, all these labels and everything using the dot notation. And this is the most helpful update in I think in recent times, which will help you work with enterprise level application and a normalized database. So yeah, that's what I wanted to show you, and hope this was helpful, and you will be able to retrospectively apply this in your projects, and you will exercise caution whenever you have to use add columns. And the moment your brain is thinking add columns, alarm bells should ring in your head saying that, okay, can my table contain over 2000 records? If yes, it is not delegable. So future proof your solution and try to use dot notation wherever you can to avoid delegation issues down the line. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much. Bye bye.